Hi, good afternoon. Good afternoon. So if you're on the live, just type your name, say good afternoon. Let me know that you're there. So today we will be looking at the Guyana case study, and we're going to be looking at forestry in Guyana for your exam. Last day we looked at fishing in Belize, so we go live again and we will be looking at the case study in Guyana, forestry. Hi, good afternoon. So if you're there, just drop a comment in the comment box because today we'll be looking at Guyana, the case study, forestry in Guyana. Okay, so let's just give people a 5 minutes to log on and then we will go straight in our session for today. So how are you all doing? I know some people started having exams this week, and let me know how have the studying been going, how has you been coping, and let me know, like, I'm interested to find out how you're coping with exams and how was your first exam. I know we are all ready to get over with these exams and just get some sort of relaxation. I myself am quite tired because I've been doing, teaching in my school online, teaching my classes online, as well as doing these online sessions. So it's quite time consuming, and I would just, love to get some rest. Hopefully, not far after the 17th, things will open back up so we can have some sort of, relaxation. We could go to the beach or go to the movies or go to a restaurant and celebrate this tedious, exhausting year, right? Hi, Calicia. Hi, Jassy. Oh, Miss. Good afternoon. Hi, Asa. Yes, y'all are almost there. I am ready for this to be over with. Like, it's sort of draining now, right? Jassy, how was your exam yesterday? I know you said you had exam yesterday. How did that go? CXC is just, one of the things you need to do in life, and then just get over with it. How y'all feeling? So we'll start at 10 past. I'm just giving others some time to jump on and we get right into it. So again, as I was explaining to those on yesterday. Um, I am not able to share screen because my number of live session for this month has ended in terms of the site I was using to stream. So we're gonna have to practically, you're gonna just have to look at me on the screen and listen, and hopefully it will be interactive and we learn something. I hope it's not too much of a hindrance for you. All right, so we're going into the Guyana case study. It was your first and it was good. That's good to know. Dre Joe, listen, I was looking out for you for so long to help me with these Streamlabs. I hit you up on your YouTube channel because I saw your YouTube channel and apparently you're a heavy gamer. So I went and I look at your channel, Jdro and on MMM, both of them, saying I would get a little help, but you didn't even comment or anything. Yes, you will have to show me that after the class. Yes, I followed your site and stuff. Anyway, let's get into it. So Guyana, anybody know anything about Guyana? You ever been to Guyana? Just see you're tired. That's okay. That's okay, man. You could always check the live. I understand the struggle is real. I myself want a good nap. I need a good nap. So let's talk about Guyana. Gosh, no, you don't know anything about Guyana. Anybody ever? Maybe tomorrow I'll do a live as well to get over to to finish up this part of it. Joe, you sleepy already? Oh, you sleep already? Well, that's good. I need a rest. I have not been sleeping well. Like I have anxiety for my students. You know, the life of a teacher. People think it easy, but it's a struggle. So, what about Guyana? What you all know about Guyana? This is on the broad topics section 2, human system. Definitely going to be on your exam. We're looking at industries in the Caribbean. Thanks for popping in, Jassy. Later, we'll chat. It would be nice for us to do like a room to see each other faces and stuff sometime, right? So, Asa, am I asking questions today? Of course, I ask questions every class. Large forest and into agriculture. All right. So, anybody ever been to Guyana? Plenty forest. Yo. So let me give you all a little story, right? In 2018, I visited Guyana because Guyana was on my bucket list for like a real long time. Like I really wanted to visit Kaichu. Anybody ever heard of Kaichu waterfall? So the Kaichu waterfall is the tallest single drop waterfall in the world, right? And it's found in Guyana and it's in the interior. So if you know anything about Guyana, Guyana comprised of at least 85% of Guyana is untouched forests. So they have a lot of resources in terms of forest resources. So I really wanted to visit Kaichu and it was in the interior. To get to the actual waterfall was a really amazing experience because you had to actually go on this small helicopter, small plane kind of thing. They actually weigh you, right? So they weigh each person, right? It's connected to the Amazon forest. All of that extends into from Brazil all the way down to Guyana. You know, the Brazil borders Guyana as well, right? So all of that comprise of the Amazon. Yes, Drew. And to get to the interior, they actually weighed us. And, going on to the little aircraft, the pilot was like, "Do you want to co pilot?" And I was like, "Hell yes." And I went to the front seat, and it was so cool because I get, although it was an automatic mode, like if I was really flying the plane, and I got to see huge, huge, huge rivers, like rivers that you will never see in Trinidad, like how huge a river actually is. And you see the meandering and the oxbow lakes. And I really wish I had a screen to show pictures. It was really an amazing experience. So it was like basically an hour to get to the interior. So Guyana is on a continent one. It's not an island like Trinidad and Tobago, and it is huge. So yes, Asa, it has gold, it has bauxite, and recently they discovered oil and gas. So you guess what? Guyana is going to be in terms of places for migrants to go to. A lot of migrants are going to be looking at Guyana because it's not going to be considered like the land of opportunities, like how we have a lot of migrants coming into Trinidad because they can find jobs. So Guyana has just discovered oil, and a lot of the expertise in Trinidad is going to go to Guyana for job opportunities, right? So that is one of the things about Guyana. So 80% of Guyana is forest resources, and it's bounded by Brazil on one side, Venezuela, and Suriname. So you need to know the location of it. So the location, when we're looking at the industries in the Caribbean case studies, you need to know the location. So Brazil, Venezuela, and Suriname bounds Guyana, right? 65% of the forest out of the 80 is what we say exploitable, meaning that they can utilize it for forestry. And anybody know about anything about wood and furniture and the type of wood that we utilize in terms of furniture? So what you need to know, Joe, is basically the factors that influence the location, the factors that influence the development of the industry. So that is what I'm going through. So you need to know the factors, you need to know the trends, and you need to know the challenges and solutions. So this part of the syllabus is the heaviest. So that is what I'm going through. So location, what you need to know, it is located between Venezuela, sorry, it is bounded by Venezuela to the north, Guyana, right? Sorry, Brazil, and then Suriname, right? So that is the basically a little bit of background about the location, right? It is one of the major GDP contributors to Guyana's economy, and it is a source of valuable timber. So in the world, um, Guyana exports a lot of their wood resources, right? Lumber. So factors that influence the location as well is, of course, the variety of trees and the size of forests, right? So some of the trees that you have in Guyana that makes it uh, uh, a, a strong industry for forestry is that you have wood like green heart and mora, purple wood. Those type of wood is really really good. It's like the cardwood for furniture. Yes, Michaela. So that type of wood, they are strong and they are really good. So it makes it good for exporting of these resources. So Guyana exports a lot of their wood, right? So what they use the wood for? They use the wood for ceilings, for floors, for firewood, um, furniture, right? People use it as well in bridges and railways, houses. Green Heart, particularly in Trinidad, people who still utilize wood for those really nice cottage houses that they have like in ecotourism areas in Trinidad, they use or they import green heart. So green heart, purple wood, crab wood, those are excellent for furniture. And basically 40% of the forest resources are exploited commercially in Guyana, right? There's also a heavy demand for timber and forest products. So where do you think Guyana markets their wood to? Who do they export their wood to? So remember, one of the factors would be location, another one would be market. Who are they marketing their forest resources to? The wood, the wood that they extract, the lumber. Where is it exported? Anybody knows? So market. Who they export their lumber to? Very good. Europe and North America are the traditional markets, right? Um, Also, they are now tapping into Southeast Asia, which is basically emerging as a new market. And 94% of their wood resources in the late 2000 was exported to Southeast Asia, right? Also, there's a demand from other Caribbean countries. So I just told you that Trinidad and Tobago, we import a lot of the green heartwood from Guyana, right? What about labor? Do you think labor contributes? Yes, Gasha. Very good, Gasha, the Caribbean. Do you, how does labor influence the development of the industry? The labor, how much people does this industry employ in Guyana? Do they import workers? Do workers come from outside of the country? Excellent, Michaela. So most of the workers are Guyanese, right? They don't really import workers into the industry. 20,000 people, at least 20,000 people works for the forestry industry, and it comprises 3% of the forest industry in Guyana comprises at least 3% of the GDP. So when we talk about now the labor, that is what you need to know, that they do not import a labor supply. It is mainly Guyanese that are employed, and it employs around 20,000 people. In terms of accessibility, what do you think? How is accessible the forest resources? Anybody know? How do they extract these resources? So accessibility in terms of transport, right? The forest industry. When you think about the forest industry, you have to think about transport. How do they transport these forest resources in terms of lumber, wood? How do they extract it? How do they get it to the markets, in other words? Excellent. Remember, I just told you all about my experience to get into the interior. So the rivers are not like our jokey gullies that we have here, right? We don't have rivers. We have streams and gullies. But in Guyana and the Amazon, they have these huge rivers. And of course, the river is the main mode of transportation for this, for getting the logs, right, to the mainland. And it is carried by two important rivers. Anybody know? So they would cut the lumber, and then they would take it down the river via two main rivers. Anybody know? So the logs are actually Nile. Nile. What continent the Nile on, Joe? Huh? No, 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 not the Nile. Not the Nile at all. right? The Essequibo River and Barama, right? So the Essequibo River, if you ever Google or you YouTube Essequibo River, it's a very yes, right? The Essequibo River is very popular and the Barama. So those two rivers, they would cut the logs and then sail it down the stream until it gets to the sawmills further down, right? In terms of technology, the laborers that are employed in the industry, the Guyana forest industry, the lumbering industry, let me know, do you think they utilize technology, right? So another factor can be technology. What about it? Asa, you there? Asa and Gasha, Faith, Calicia, you're following me? So with technology, the locals, right, the Guyanese people, they utilize simple tools. So they would use their pickaxe and saws and axes to chop the lumber, the wood, and they are accustomed to this. Huh? So that is what they utilize. However, you will have larger companies that would take the lumber and, of course, use higher technology in terms of like mechanical skidders and these type of tractors to get the lumber from the sawmills into the different areas, right? Very good, Michaela. So, Michaela, you are following with me, right? Then, when we talk about government, the other factor that you need to know is government. So, what are some of the factors we listed so far? So, we listed location, we listed market, we listed the labor supply, we talked about technology, and we talk about transport. Another important factor is technology. Sorry, government. How does the government, utopia? Oh gosh, right? Technology. We go on to ownership, sorry, of the government. What is the government role in the forestry industry? The forests in Guyana, they are managed by the Guyana Forestry Commission. Just like in Trinidad and Tobago, how we have the land Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry that would be charged with the mandate of managing our forest resources. It's the same way that the forest in Guyana is managed by the Guyana Forestry Commission, right? And there are a lot of policies that are geared towards the protection and conservation of the forest resources so that they use their resources sustainably as well, right? Because remember, they also mine for gold. That's another thing, right? So they also have laws and legislation, just like how EMA in Trinidad will institute laws and legislation to to ensure that proper logging practices is carried out and the regulations are abide to. It's the same way that it is implemented in Guyana. So the Guyana government own the forest. It is not privatized. Do you all understand that? Hi, Lennis. How are you today? How are you? It's nice to see you. Good. So now let us go on now to the other part of what you need to know. What are the benefits of the forest? So we have what are the benefits or advantages of forests, and then what are the threats or challenges. So give me some of the benefits of forest resources in Guyana. How does the forestry industry um, contribute to Guyana's economy? Okay, well, it provides habitat, yes, but in terms of the economic revenue, Dre, you have to tell me exactly how this habitat brings in money. So, a habitat for animals in the rainforest is just a habitat. But how do you link that to making money? Everything, remember, governments are concerned about revenue. They are not concerned about protecting our areas just like that. They need to know that there's a benefit. So, where does the benefit come in? Do you all know how much money I spent to go to visit Kaichu Waterfall? You want to make a guess? Make a guess to visit that interior, to see the way of life of the people in that area. Very good. So the tourists would come for ecology, and you made a very important point because different universities would go to Guyana to study the ecology, to study the species, the flora, the fauna. Also, ecotourism is big. So I was asking her, guess how much money I paid to visit that waterfall? Anybody want to guess? Yes, so it provides employment for the people. We just said that it employs over 20,000 people. Um, it develops or helps to link with other industries like the agroforestry industry. So I paid 195 US dollars, 195 US dollars to go to Kaichu because remember I told you all I had to take a small plane. So imagine, and it was booked out, booked out, right? Well, not so much. Probably in Guyanese money, it probably 20,000. But no, right? So it's quite costly to visit, right? What about medicinal value? Do you all know that forest resources has a lot of medicinal value, right? So we talk about ecosystems and the flora and fauna. It improves the water quality. Do you all know that rainforest provides us with our water supply domestically, right? So all the water that you have in your home, of course, it comes from the source, which is the mountain or the forest, right? That is why it's called a rain forest because the forest helps to produce rain. So once you have more forest, you have cleaner water because it's able to infiltrate into the soil slower. When you clear your forest, then there is no cover for the rain to fall to absorb on the canopy or to intercept that rainfall. And what happens? You have a lot of soil splash, erosion, and of course the water quality is not as clean, right? Also, it is a source of food. The forest resources also provide food. In the traditional communities, it is also a source of fuel because some of them still use firewood, right? Um, and of course, they export their lumber. So it brings in foreign revenue in terms of foreign exchange, and it contributes to the GDP, right? It is also used for construction of homes in Guyana and for furniture, and of course, um, it is used for recreation. Anybody know what type of recreation forest resources provide? Forest resources in terms of recreation. So anybody ever heard about zip lining? When you zip line, right? You go to a country and you zip line. You spend a lot of money, right, to do that. So that is also another way in which they camping, excellent, right? But I don't want to camp in no rainforest because Guyana forest is not like Trinidad forest. You would get some anaconda, snake, and that type of thing, right? Deadly species of organisms. So yes, but camping and recreation. What are some of the challenges to Guyana, um, the forestry industry? One second, let me plug in my computer. What are some challenges or threats? Very good, manpower, right? You want to elaborate on manpower, Michaela, for me? Do you want to elaborate on that point? Oh, that is a good point. Territory. You want to elaborate on territory? For years, Guyana and Brazil had, some problems with the the bound, right? Outlining where their boundaries start, and because they're on a continent, remember, there's no physical barrier that says, unless it's like in the US where you build or you have a port of entry. But for years they have had that. But that can be a possible challenge. Um, Very good. So there's a shortage of skilled laborers in the forestry field, and we know with everything, the new generation, you guys, a lot of you are not into um, hot sun and hard work labor, right? So a shortage of skilled laborers and workers as the newer generation, they need training in this area, training to learn the more sophisticated tools in the industry. So remember, we said that they use simple tools, but they need to upgrade um, to learn more sophisticated ways of logging, right? Another challenge that you can have is a challenge with the technology that they use. The technology is again outdated, so it is way too um, the methods that they are using is way too old. They need to upgrade that. They need more advanced tools apart from the tractors and power source. They need more advanced tools that would make their work easier and cost effective and improve their efficiency. What Dre is saying there in terms of landslides as a challenge. No, Dre, remember, if they have a lot of their forests intact, then it will not really cause landslides, right? Um, okay, if you mean deforestation, very good. Anybody know what caused the problem in Brazil with the fires? Do y'all ever heard about, y'all paid attention to why there was fires in the Amazon, in the Brazil? What caused those massive fires? Anybody have an idea? Yes, Dre. In terms of deforestation, you mean over exploitation of the forest resources, right? Over exploitation, meaning the demand for logging um, is becoming more. There's a heavier demand placed on logging, which means more deforestation and over exploiting. And of course, if we do not have proper laws in terms of reforestation techniques and good management of monitoring. Remember, monitoring that after they have logged these areas in terms of replanting, that we're going to leave be left with an issue of degradation, right? And overexploitation and degradation to the environment. Yes, very good, Michaela. Diseases, right? We know that forest resources, forest environment in terms of flora, they can experience a lot of diseases, right? The wood itself can get diseases, the trees like millibug, and they can wipe out total populations of forest stands, right? So they need to implement proper treatment and spraying for diseases, and sometimes government may lack the funds to do this, because remember, Guyana is approximately 80% under forest. So to spray all of that is just practically impossible, right? So back to the Brazil point. Anybody know why they cleared or they set the area of Amazon under fire in Brazil? It is because there's a demand in the world for red meat in terms of beef, right? So everybody wants a nice steak, right? So you ever heard of steak, beef, right? Everybody wants steak or beef. And because of that, the president of Guyana, Brazil, he is really not into, protection of the environment. He's all about generating revenue, and he basically gave a mandate to the farmers, to set the place on fire so that they can do more cattle ranching of of cows, so that they can exploit and and export more beef. So the demand for livestock farming is really what drove that. What are other challenges that we have, right? So we talk about overexploitation, and that can be linked to sustainable use of the resource. We need to use the forest resources um, wisely. Remember, they said about 60%, or I think 60 to 40% of the forest in Guyana is exploited. So even though they're exploiting it, we also need to exploit them in a sustainable way, right? That will allow for the forest resources to recover. So you want to conserve and protect, right? Guyana still lacks proper data. So they don't have, when we talk about data, data meaning collection of research on the number of forest stands, the species diversity, abundance. So they lack data, and also research and development into the forest is also very limited. So sustainable use in terms of sustainability is very important with the exploitation, and that's a challenge. Only when we have research and technology, then it will help. Yes, Michaela, globalization is another point. Can you elaborate on globalization? Dre is saying, of course, there are tribes there. There are still tribes that live, and they live in the forest, So the community that I visited, Kaichu, the actual Kaichu waterfall site is managed by the tribes there, right? It's really nice because even in Belize, there are indigenous tribes like the Mayan people, and they all speak in their different languages that they have to today, up to today. Michaela, globalization. You care to elaborate on the challenge of globalization? All right. So with globalization, right? Very good. So with globalization, remember, with the advent of globalization means that the world is now a global village. There are no borders. and trade and export have become way easier for people to conduct. So the opportunity, has opened up for Guyana to export a lot of their lumber. And with this opening up of the global markets, buying their lumber, it means that it increases their demand. It increases its demand on the forest resources. So it can lead to a situation of degradation of the forest resources and over exploitation. Everybody understand that? Are you all following with me? Is that clear? So those are the industries in terms of primary, and that is basically, you know, what you need to know for the Guyana case study, right? What are some solutions that we can give to these problems, right? What are some of the solutions? So, in terms of globalization and a lot of it has to do with sustainable use. So, making sure that the forest resources um, is used sustainably or is extracted sustainably, I should say, and also ensuring that management by government ensures that the forests are replanted after use, right? And also they can utilize, government placing more investment in the technology and developing or harnessing the human resources to upgrade their skills to make the industry more cost effective and ensure efficiency. So that is basically what you need to know. Hi, Faith. Hi, Gasha. It's um, for the Guyana case study. So what I want to do, we have a couple minutes before 6. I'm going to go through some questions that they would ask on the primary industry because I compile a list of all, right? And we're going to just go through the answers for them. So you all can take note of the questions and the answers. So it says one question is explain three policies that government may use to promote sustainable development in primary economic activities. Explain three policies that government may use to promote sustainable development in primary economic activities. What do you think are three policies in the primary industry? So we just talked about solutions just now. And when we looked at Belize yesterday, we also gave some solutions. Three policies that government, your to the question, three policies that governments, I'm going to type it so that you all will get it. So you can use, so this is a question. Explain three policies that government may use to promote sustainable development in primary economic activities, and it is 6 marks, which means you're getting 2 marks for each one. So if you're looking at Belize, what are some of the things that they can do to ensure sustainable development of the fishing industry? What are some policies that they have implemented? So we went through this yesterday and we did forest today. So tell me, or one way forest resources, one policy that government can implement to ensure that forest resources are used in a sustainable way? Type your answers to me. Okay, good. So they can implement, right? So for the exam, laws. So you can put enforcement of laws, right? For over harvesting of timber and clearing of trees. So not no unauthorized cutting, because Michaela, remember, this is their income revenue. This is the revenue generator for the country. So it's not that it will be unauthorized cutting, but they're gonna have to implement laws to prevent over harvesting, right? Enforcing of the laws. So implementation of the laws and enforcement of those laws that um, that would help prevent over harvesting of timber and tree cutting, and also zoning of the forest. So just like how we talked about in Belize, there are management or protected areas. They can have protected areas or management areas, or zoning of the forest, that will allow um, certain amount or quotas, right? Place quotas on the amount that can be extracted at one time. Very good, Calicia. Have seasons. So yesterday we spoke about this in the Belize case study. We talked about having a closed season for certain species of marine life at certain times. So for example, the conch, right? We talk about the conch having a specific season. We talked about also the groupers having a closed season. So seasons will allow for control, right? Very good. So it will not be exhausted. So the having seasons, create a closed season and no harvest season. And also this ensures that the marine life get times to breed, and it will ensure that forests recover, right? So you can also put um, enforcement of reforestation laws in terms of forest resources. Also, in Belize, they have given the corporations quotas. Remember, the corporations are the ones that are buying the fish from the fishermen, and they are then exporting it. So when we put a quota on how much they can receive, then it basically puts some control in the level of fish that is exploited, or fish resources in terms of other species like lobster, etc. And remember, another thing that they did is that they limit or they prohibit the sale of um, lobster and conch below a certain size. So they only sell the adult species of the conch and shrimp and lobster. They do not, sorry, lobster and conch. They do not sell juveniles, or they put a size. So you have to get them to a certain size. So that is for fisheries. Oh, Asa, that is a nice idea that you have. Putting badges on trees that are sustainably grown, and customers are not allowed to buy trees without stamps, right? In terms of purchasing trees, I don't think that is really the issue here. The issue is the lumbering, right? The exploitation of the lumber. So yes, putting quotas as well on the forest resources in terms of how much is extracted at a time is very important. So I just talked about sustainable use and how they can do that, right? And also collecting data. um, they need data to support proper decision making, to make sure that the forest resources are managed properly. Everybody understand those answers? Do you all understand how to answer that? So the other question states, explain three challenges. Very good. Educating citizens, but remember, it is not the citizens that are going out and really cutting the trees, Dre. It is really the government. So the government, unless it's being done illegally, right? So if it's being done illegally and there's a problem of illegal logging, then we can say, the education of the citizen for over exploitation and overuse. You understand what I'm saying, Dre? So the other one is explain three challenges faced. And remember, I told you all these come solution and challenges come all the time. Three, explain three challenges faced by one of the following by one of the following activities in the Caribbean. And they have forestry, they have fishing and mining. So we did fishing and we did forestry, right? So let us say fishing and forestry. So explain three challenges faced by one of the following activities. So shoot challenges for fishing industry and shoot the challenges for the forestry industries for me. Because I know you all are on the live from yesterday and today. Some of you all were here both days. So what are some of the challenges facing the fishing industry and the forestry industry? Very good. Overfishing in Belize because sometimes with the demand placed on the fishing industry, right, to export. And remember they export to the US and Japan and so forth, it can cause problems. Trawling is Trawl, Trawl, right? Trawling, right, in terms of the shrimp industry. Remember, I explained what trawling is the last day, right? It's where you have these huge nets scraping the seafloor. So trawling is a major challenge for the shrimp industry because many times what they do is that they take juveniles, too many young fishes, and small shrimps, right, that cannot be utilized. And we call this bycatch. So trawling results in a situation that creates bycatch where you catch juveniles or baby or young fish that cannot be used, right? The next point Ray have is marine pollution. Excellent. So where does this marine pollution comes from though? Anybody else give me some more challenges? We have more. What about forest challenges? We just spoke about the challenges in the forestry industry. So if you remember the fishing industry, any other, let me know. right? So pollution can come from pesticides, right? Remember, when you are doing agriculture on land, right, and people fertilize their land, right, what happens is when rainfall, right, it can all wash the pesticides and sediment into the sea and can prevent and cause things like eutrophication, right? Also, in very good Dre, in Trinidad and Tobago, we have oil spills, right? And this has impacted on the fishing industry, especially in the Libre area where they experience large oil spills. But remember the case study that you're using in Belize. Um, and Belize may not have a problem with oil spills, but I think they don't have as much oil and gas as we do. So definitely the threats are overfishing, the destruction of the breeding grounds for fisheries in terms of mangroves. They destroy the habitat, destruction of mangroves and seagrass beds by building of hotels and stuff on the sea or coastal front, and of course pesticides that cause eutrophication and prevent um, the breeding of fish, right? Um, so for the fishing industries in Belize, that is some of the challenges. We talk about trawlers that damage the seabed as well, and those are the main challenges. With respect to forestry, usually they ask you either or Michaela, so you can learn for forestry, or you can learn for fishing, or you can learn for mining. Um, for I usually do two of them so that you have an option of which is easier for you to remember with my class, right? So very good. So forestry, Michaela, we just talk about manpower. They are not skilled enough. They need to upgrade. We talk about overexploitation of the forestry resources and diseases, because sometimes the trees may get diseases. So excellent. Remember, we also talk about technology being a problem, a challenge. Sorry, right? We talk about globalization and the demand that it places on the on the forest resources, which can cause over exploitation as well. So very good. So you all know how to answer those questions. Um, Let me see what more we have there. Define the term economic activity. Define the term economic activity. This is an easy one. So I think last day I went through this. Define the term economic activity. What is economic activity? What is economic activity? So economic activity involves any action, right, that utilizes the production, the distribution, and the consumption of goods and services at all levels within the society. So it is activities that generate income or revenue for the country. Very good. Anything used to make a livelihood. It is any activity that we use to generate income or revenue for the country and provide people with a livelihood. So it involves the production and distribution, consumption of goods and services. Just a few more questions here. So again, they can ask you explain three challenges faced by two types of economic activity in the Caribbean. So you see, in this case, they ask you for two types of economic activity. So that is why you probably need to know at least two. Know the forestry and know the fishing industry, because here they ask you to explain three challenges faced by two types of industry. So they wanted you to explain, and this is 12 marks. This was a heavy mark question. So three for fishing and three for forestry, right? They ask you to name two types of economic activities in the Caribbean. Two types of economic activities. Name and give an example. I think this will come. Name and give an example of two types of economic activities in the Caribbean. So you're giving an answer with respect to the Caribbean. Name two types of economic activities. So do you remember the three types of economic activities? You are naming two, and then you are giving an example in the Caribbean. Very good. So primary industry, forestry in Guyana, or fishing in Belize, or mining in Guyana, or mining in Jamaica, um, or extraction of oil and natural gas in Trinidad and Tobago. Secondary industry, excellent. Food processing in Trinidad and Tobago, right? Or the garment industry is another one, right? Or you can say tertiary, and the example for tertiary is tourism in Barbados, tourism in Belize, tourism in Jamaica. Everybody understand that? Another one that they get very specific is, no, you can't say tutoring. They want to know the exact economic activity. So here they're referring to primary, secondary, and tertiary, and then you give an example of an activity. Dre, you understand that? So the other question is, for a named Caribbean country, describe two factors. For a named Caribbean country, describe two factors which influence the location of a specific type of economic activity. So this is it here. The question is, for a named Caribbean country, describe two factors that influence the location of a specific type of economic activity. And a very easy one to do here would be, of course, forestry in Guyana or fishing in Belize as your country. So now you describe two factors that influence the location of this economic activity. Give me two factors that influence the location of the fishing industry in Belize and the forestry industry in Guyana. Why is there a fishing industry in Belize? That's what they're asking me. What are two factors that influence that? Not necessarily. No, I think you all are misinterpreting the question. In terms of, okay, good, Michaela, Dre, that is the answer. Good. The answer is that Belize has the largest barrier reef, remember, in the Western Hemisphere, that is 280 kilometers long. So, this natural habitat of having this barrier reef, and there are atolls as well, provides a home and provides a nursery for fishery resources. So it's a breeding ground for coral, fish, crustaceans, and of course you have mangroves and seagrass surrounding it. So it provides the ideal location for the development of the fishing industry. Everybody understand that? In terms of labor supply and transport, Calicia, yes, but explain that for me. So, Michaela, good. Labor supply and accessibility. I want you all to actually elaborate on the point, describe it for me. So, tell me how labor supply influence the location of, and which industry you're talking about. The fishing industry, Calicia? You will try to keep one near the river. What you will try to keep near the rivers in Guyana, Dre, the industry. Okay. So with accessibility and labor supply, how you gonna elaborate on those? Very good. So labor supply, Guyana, you could talk about again 85 in terms of location. Guyana, 85% of Guyana is comprised of forest, right? Which makes it ideal for creating this forestry industry. And because they have these large stands of forest, they also have large rivers, which makes transportation um, very easy or accessible. So they send the logs down. So very good. They use the rivers as the Esquibo environment for transporting, and that is accessibility. So the location is that they're close. They use the rivers nearby. Very good, Dre, to help with the development of the industry and labor supply. Again, because Guyana consists of so much forest, and many of the locals live, in these forests. They are also working, right? Most of the workers are Guyanese, allowing them to have access to the forest areas for work. Excellent, Calicia. And the other one that you have is transportation, I think, which would go with accessibility. For Belize, another one is that all the communities in Belize, the fishing communities, are organized for commercial fishing. So commercial, most fishing communities in Belize, they are organized around the barrier reef, and they also sell, right? The 60% of the fishermen belong to cooperatives, so they sell their fish resources to these cooperatives, and they pool together their resources as well. Everybody understand how to answer such questions, right? You can also talk about in Belize again, government policies have promoted aquaculture. Remember, they have shrimp farms in Belize. So, in conjunction with the Great Barrier Reef, they also practice aquaculture, shrimp farming in Belize, and that also um, contributes to the fishing industry as well. And it is located along the coast, right? So it utilizes the natural environment. So I think basically those are the type of questions that would come, right? They would either ask you to give the challenges with it, um, to identify the factors for its location, and possible solution, right? So just remember that, and you would be good for the exam. I think you all answered the question pretty well. So this will conclude my session for today. I hope it was helpful. Dre, you have to hook me up with Streamlabs because that is confusing. Are you all good, ladies? You all good? Michaela, Calicia, Faith. On Saturday, I am doing a crash course with past papers and map work. If any, what's my Instagram? I have more than one. Let me type it here. I have Coexistence Expeditions, which is my business page. And then I have you're welcome, Gasha. Gasha, are you understanding? So what is something you all learned today? So y'all can follow me on Instagram as well. I have a small business where I do ecotourism and geotourism tours across Trinidad. So if you want to join me on a trip sometime, it would be nice when things open up for us to meet and do something fun. Or you could just email me on this account. Oh gosh. I don't- Dre, if you're busy now, let me know. Maybe you could stay on and show it to me. Okay, cool. So y'all, I'm going to end. So add me on this number. You can add me on this number or contact me on that anywhere. And let me start up my other computer because this computer is restricting Streamlabs. I have to get the administrator password. So it's not allowing me to do that. Okay, everyone else, thank you for joining me. Dre, you get my number there. You can um, message me and we can see how we can go through that. So I wouldn't have to fight up here. Bye, you guys. So I'm going to end now, and you just send me a message on WhatsApp so we can sort this out. Bye, Calicia. You're welcome. You're welcome. Bye, bye, Gasha. Bye.